So I want to share a dream that I had. This one was actually some time ago, but it's been kind of always on the forefront of my, well, I shouldn't say always, but it's been on the forefront of my mind sometimes. In this particular dream, I got up and walked to my bedroom window, and some, little sounds caught my attention. And I looked and I saw some people sort of gathered. And then I looked below. So I was in the second story, and I looked down directly below versus looking across where the people were gathered. Directly below, I saw military. But the interesting thing was, I saw three different military. I saw the colonial army, they were marching shoulder to shoulder, two by two, and then I saw the um, from the Civil War, so that
Really?
time period, 1800s,
Yeah.
and then I saw the modern army.
Mm.
Okay, and they were all marching together across the street to a park. The park was dark; it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then suddenly it was as if I was over there at the park watching, and the armies turned against one another and they were fighting. But in the distance, I could see, and I knew within my spirit that there was another army, vast army. I mean, it was so vast, and I knew it was China. As the American armies start fighting against one another, then all of a sudden, one of the soldiers, his horse had been injured. It was a white horse, and I could see it was almost like because how the Lord deals with me because I'm a photographer. It kind of zoomed in, and I could see the horse's eye. I don't remember if it was a right or left eye, but the eye was torn, and that soldier called out to the horse and called the horse mare. But it was in desperation, like mare, like it was like his favorite horse or something. And I woke up, but before waking up, I was just wondering why are we fighting against one another? And that was the end of the dream.
General.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that. Okay, so you're in the second story bedroom window. So second story indicates that there's another story, and the story that you're looking at is down on the ground. So you're in the bedroom, which is a place of sleep and rest and dreaming and getting intelligence. And kind of when you woke up and went to the window, your intelligence was looking down on the ground. So when you look down, you see the militaries from three different eras of our country. So you have the colonial period during the War for Independence, the Civil War, which was a time of great trauma to the entire nation, then the modern era military, and they're all marching to a park at 3 a.m., which is kind of an interesting time. 3 o'clock in the morning. Some of those, it's only been a modern thing that we fight at night. One of the used to be all the wars were fought during the day, believe it or not. At least most of them. Some of the scarier ones did happen at night, but the people they were attacking didn't expect it, and that's probably why they won. But they all turn on each other. So the question is, why have we turned on each other? So the modern day people are going against whatever the colonial people fought for, the Civil War that tore our country apart. It's just one big mess, which kind of is what's going on in the country today. Best way to divide a house or to conquer a house is to divide it. And, in the military sense, they have the might to actually destroy us from within. It's a whole lot easier to, if you can get a country to fight itself and implode, then you don't even have to attack it. You just walk in afterwards and clean up the mess and take it. And so what was, you mentioned that China was looming in the distance as if they were going to attack us. Is that right?
No, it was just like they were just standing there, but it was so vast, I couldn't make out any detail, but in my spirit, I knew it was them. There was just this whole sea of them, and they were just waiting, watching this war go on with the army, the U.S. armies.
Yeah, I think it's really an indictment on. It's not necessarily an indictment on our military, but it's the country that we are turning and fighting each other on so many different levels. This is kind of Saul Alinsky 101, how to destroy a country. And if you can get everybody to get divided, the more elements of society you can divide, like the rich, the poor, the religious, the non-religious, the pro-choicers, the pro not choices, you know, you can just start seeing every little piece of it turning. And the Bible talks about it. In the end times, brothers and sisters are going to go against their parents. It's just it goes down to the lowest level, and this is kind of talking about the lowest level in the military, at least, that we're destroying ourselves from within. And China is just watching. Partly because they have a real interest in our country. They're invested in us. A large part of their economy comes from us. The last part's kind of interesting. You have the horse that's injured and his eye is torn.
Mm-hmm.
So the horse is what takes you to war. But when the eye being torn or torn out, was it torn out or just torn? Did it look like it could see? Or
It could see, but I saw the blood and I could see it just torn like that. It was open. He had sustained an injury that tore his, the skin right next to, right by his eye, but the eye was still intact.
so he's still able to see clearly. Well, not so clearly, maybe. The war horse is, as we were saying with the last lady. It runs for war. I mean, that's what it's meant to do. It smells gunpowder and it runs towards it. It doesn't fear anything. Doesn't fear the sword. Doesn't fear the spear. It runs when the trumpet sounds. It runs, and his rider loves the horse, and probably wants to keep it. It's funny that the mare has kind of a dual meaning. Mare is obviously a female horse, but it's also the sea.
It's also
the sea.
Oh, the sea. Oh, okay.
The ocean. And I think there's a wave that's about to wash over this country that's going to shock us. I think that, this is going to be the cleansing blow to the country, that, God gets a chance in history to influence it. I think it's coming. We're coming at a time that, our vision is a little bit torn, our allegiances are torn, our alliances are torn, and it seems to go all the way back to colonial times. It's like the fabric of the country has been torn, just like the skin on the eye of this horse. And so, what do you do about this? That's the question. Why did God give you this dream today? I think it's you're a watchman. Your role in this, in every stage of it, is to watch, and that's an important role. The watchman. If the watchman doesn't do his job, the country is not alerted, and the country will fall. It seems like you have a role as watchman. You're in the bedroom watching from the second story. That's an elevated position. You can see really clearly, and you look straight down. You're not looking. You're looking at the closest, most dangerous thing that's happening, and right now, it's this military that's marching into a park and tearing itself apart. You see that. You understand that. The next part is you're down on their level. You've come out of the clouds, and now you're in and amongst them, and you're watching and reporting. So I think it has something to do with your role as a watchman in your current life. I don't know what you do for a living or what your ministry is, but it seems like being a watchman is a huge part of your calling. And the torn eye, your eyes aren't torn. The horses are.
Mm-hmm.
It all points to seeing. Watching from the very beginning to the end, it's all about sight. So you're seeing from the bedroom window, you're watching on the ground. Now you're watching this horse who's on the ground. Did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the ground, and it is having trouble seeing because its eye is torn.
Right.
And I think that the whole idea of sight has a big impact or part in your life of seeing what's going on and reporting.
Right. Yeah, I'm a photographer, so that's what I do. So
okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Your life is through the lens of your eye.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I see a lot
There's
of things.
George Washington. So you can picture this. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, Carla.
Yeah, I was going to add one more thing. So just at the very end of that dream, sometimes I'll go into a vision after a dream,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing that I saw was the ceiling of a sometimes you walk into maybe a doctor's office or some type of an office where they have those they're almost like gosh, I don't even know how to explain it. They usually have these little beams and then these little foam things that you can kind of push up and move
Yeah,
over and then something.
tiles.
Yeah, those tiles. Okay.
It's a
So
suspended ceiling.
exactly, that's exactly. So I saw that, okay? And then the next week I had another dream, and it was as if the Lord, at least I felt like the Lord showed me beyond the ceiling, because I remember waking up from the vision that, why did I see a ceiling? And I thought, okay, and I just prayed about it. And then the next week I had another dream that was different from this one, but that ceiling, someone pushed it up, moved the tile out of the way, and what was exposed and shown to me was a VCR. So sometimes that'll happen. I'll see in a vision, I may see the vent. I don't know what part of the country you guys are in, but like in California, the vent for air conditioning and heating is typically on the ceiling, not on the floor, like in some back east. But sometimes I may see a vent or I may see a ceiling. Then maybe a following week or weeks after, it's like the Lord shows me what that was about. You know what I mean? Like He'll expose to me. So I
That's
don't. I'm sorry.
that's what the symbol of a suspended ceiling is. Your vision is. Don't think of it. It's a play on words. It's your vision is suspended or canceled or held in abeyance. So you've
Mhm.
been. It's like it's suspended in suspended animation. You know,
Mhm.
it's held there, but you can't see beyond it. So it takes somebody else to move the tile, and you see a VCR, which is kind of interesting. That's a recording device for memories, which you're capturing memories on. I assume still photos.
Still photos, yeah.
Do you
Shooting
do
digital.
any? Do you do any moving picture kind of things?
Sometimes, but
Video?
I do more still.
It seems like it's an old time. That particular vision's a call to do some old time videotaping.
Mm,
I don't know,
okay.
retro photography. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, if I told you that dream, but I know there's other people waiting. If I told you that dream, maybe you would see. I don't know. It was really strange what I saw and what was on that VCR. So yeah, I saw something.
Okay.
Yeah, the Lord like immediately opened it up, and I was able to see. Um,
Well, don't leave it hanging now, Carla.
All
Say it
right.
again.
Don't leave us
Give it
hanging.
to us.
Oh, I'll tell it. I'll tell it. Okay. So in this particular dream, I was in my sister-in-law's home, and there was a, what do you say, deluge or deluge of water coming down, and I was over the toilet. I was washing my hair, and but this couple couldn't see me. So my sister-in-law and her husband walked into the bathroom. They couldn't see me, but I was wondering, could they see me washing my hair over the toilet? All of a sudden, the husband says to the wife, oh, Jason forgot to stop the VCR. At that moment, he opened up the tile, moved it, or pushed up the tile, moved it, and I looked up and I see this VCR, and I said, oh. Then all of a sudden, it was like a window opened up for me, and I was able to see what was on the VCR. Like it just the recording started to play, and what I saw was a man in a bed with four women. There was no nudity, but they were just there. And so I'm sitting there, and then I looked away, I looked again, and then there was another man. And but they were like they had secrets or something they were talking about amongst themselves in this bed. And then I woke up and I said, "Oh, that was what was in that was what was in the ceiling," because I saw the exact same ceiling, like you said, it was suspended ceiling, and I wasn't
Mhm.
able to see the first week. The second week, that was what was revealed to me on this VCR. So it was like oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. The first man that I saw, I actually knew in my spirit that he was a very prominent man with some company. I don't know, like a huge company. And when I looked again, there was another man, and then there were more women, but they were telling secrets about what they were doing in the corporation or something like that. I couldn't hear the secrets, and then I woke up. No.
A
But
man,
they were being secretly recorded. So that's what I knew. They were being secretly recorded, sharing company information about something that they were doing, but I couldn't hear what the secret was.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a man in bed with 4 women,
Mm-hmm.
and they were telling secrets.
Yes, but they were
Then
company secrets.
there was another man with more women telling secrets also. So it was
Yeah,
like,
and they were very prominent men. I couldn't see their faces, but I just knew that they were prominent people. Yeah.
Do you know anything else about them?
No,
recognize the face.
no, couldn't
Age,
see.
skin tone, height, build, bald, hair, glasses.
They had hair. They probably were in their 40s, maybe could have been in their 40s. There was nothing in particular about the women. It was almost as if they were having a meeting, but they were in bed, and it just was weird, and they were just talking about company. See, it was like a private meeting. They were in bed and they were having a private meeting. I couldn't hear the secrets, but I knew that they had been exposed because they had been recorded on this VCR, this hidden VCR. But I never knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was a week later, after the military dream, and because you kind of disappeared, John, but I was telling, um, I'm sorry, so
Neil.
what's your
Neil.
Neil? Sorry, I was telling Neil that sometimes I'll have a vision right after a dream. I'll go right into a vision and I'll see something, and then I won't understand what it is until maybe a week or a few weeks later. Then I get to see what it was that I saw. So
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
the beginning of this stream, there's a deluge of water, right? There's like from the ceiling.
Coming from the ceiling, yeah, as I'm bent over the toilet, shampooing my hair.
Which is a really normal place to wash your hair, right? Over the toilet. No, I do that. Bathrooms are meant for a couple different things. One is cleansing, one is contemplation, another is cleansing, contemplation, and purging. So it's like you've combined the washing and the purging over this one event. It's like you're washing something out of your. It's like wash that man right out of my hair.
Mm-hmm.
But you're trying to forget something, which might go on to the next part. And so this idea that there's these two groups of people are being secretly recorded, and you can see it through a window. When you said window, I heard Bill Gates and the Windows company.
Microsoft.
Microsoft. Yeah, thank you. But being in bed with these women it's not what it seems. They're basically in bed with each other, business wise. They've made an agreement to work with each other and share their secrets together, but not with everybody else. And then there's another. Did you think that the second bed knew the people in the first bed?
No, they were all in the same bed.
Oh,
So when I see the second man, and there were more women, they were all in one big bed.
one big happy family. Okay. It seems like every one of them they're all tied together in some way or another. The two men. Somehow they're all tied together, but they're being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Do they know that they're being recorded?
No, they don't.
It's kind of what Windows is about. Well, it's about the whole internet. We're being recorded right now because we want to be, but when you're just on your every keystroke that's made is being recorded somewhere in the world. Doesn't matter who you are or where you are. Everything that happens electronically gets recorded somewhere, and it's stored in multiple databases around the world. And so the idea that these people are being recorded and they don't know about it, even though they're trying to be secretive about it, the whole world will know soon what they're talking about. This isn't secret. Things that are said in darkness will be revealed.
Right.
And almost broadcast from the mountaintops. So, you've been given a view through the window into the secret bedchamber. It's kind of like the King of Aram. Use that phrase probably way more than I should, but it fits. The King of Aram was trying to go against the King of Israel, and every time he did something, the king was there or did the exact opposite of what he was expected to do. And finally, somebody said, "Who is the traitor in my camp? I mean, who's telling the king of Israel what we're doing? Who is it?" And one of the guys kind of got up and said, "It's nobody here. It's that guy Elijah Every time you say something, he hears it as if he's in your bedchamber. You're hearing what's in these people's bedchamber in a different way. So it's kind of two different things. You've got a seer view of what's going on, and you're seeing from a righteous view, but there's also a nefarious view that's being recorded on the VCR. So you have the way of exposing them in a righteous way, and maybe from a loving way to bring them to Christ, to show them what they're doing, that they're really, but then there's the opposite side, the accuser, who's going to take what they find and destroy them in a different way.
Right.
So I think you have a part in, back to your watchman on the wall, you're a watchman for these people too, to say, you may not want to be doing what you're doing. John?
Well, I think it's interesting. I agree with Cody that the VCR is a timestamp. So it's a timestamp of probably something that occurred in the 80s or the 90s.
Yeah.
I think of a couple of things. I think of Planned Parenthood in particular, the idea of multiple women and two guys talking and planning and scheming. I also think of there's a couple of prominent people that may have to do with politics in that organization that we could name. It would probably be the names that you think, the names that you would guess, particularly some that were, one in particular that was in a high position that was caught in a very compromising position and it was made very, very public. Who also has a wife that sounds close to VCR. And that's what I heard when you said VCR. I heard something that sounds like VCR, but is not VCR as far as initials. And so I think it's the idea literally of being in bed with and coming through to fruition. I also think somebody mentioned Hugh Hefner and Playboy, and that's kind of the atmosphere. It almost sounds like an Epstein-like-esque atmosphere. It's kind of a party. There's men, there's also women, there's more women than men. They're in bed in a compromising situation. Things are being recorded. Discussions are happening. Planning and scheming is going on. And what I think it is it's a foreshadowing of literally what's happening. This is like the overwatch, because again, this is found in the ceiling. This is something literally in the atmosphere. And it's things that have been recorded that are going to come to light. And things so far back that they're going to be on videotape. They're not just going to be, Hunter's laptop, but that's coming to light as well. But they're going to be stuff that isn't just digital files, but that are taped files. And I think those things are going to come to light and they're going to be shown and what's been hidden. And the ceiling represents literally the upper echelon, the higher levels, right? Those things are going to be made known. And when it does, it's going to be much to the detriment of the people that were involved. They're not going to be able to undo it. They're not going to be able to erase it. It's not a digital file that they can try to hack and do away with. It's an actual substance. You have to get close to it and steal it or burn it or put a mag on it or something else like that. It's not really hackable in the traditional sense of traditional, what we consider now traditional digital files or digital properties. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of stuff is like the water deluge that's going to fall. It's going to be a deluge of evidence. It's going to be a deluge of water. And it also kind of goes back to what we heard earlier, the idea of washing her with water through the word. It's the idea of the CIA uses as their theme, which is the verse in John that says, you will know the truth and the truth will make you free, or the truth will set you free. It's really the truth will make you free. Because it's an ongoing level of freedom that has happened through vigilance and intelligence and exposure of corruption. And so that's what that verse talks about. And so people in those organizations that have chosen those verses in particular, whether or not they chose it in a past day or a past age, it may have been righteous people that started certain agencies. They're bound legally and I believe spiritually, covenantally to live by those promises. And those promises may be their own downfall because there's a lot of certain covert places that have tried to hide all of their sins and bury them in hide them in the ceilings and, put them in VCR tapes and bury them in the ground and try to do away with the evidence. But the evidence still exists, and it's going to be a watershed of information. I hear a watershed like Watergate. It's going to be something like a piece of tape stuck in the door that leads to the downfall of what people think is the ruling class of this country. And so I think it's interesting. I think it's the whole idea of washing your hair is the idea of a changed mindset too. And I think that it represents, I think you in particular represent people groups in the United States that are going to literally have their hair washed, their mindsets changed, when maybe they associated with a level of identity politics in one camp or another. They're now suddenly going to rethink things because of the watershed of information and the stuff that's above them, that literally was above their pay grade, that they didn't know about, that comes into their metron, and they now have an understanding of the level of corruption and things that have been hidden. And I think it's going to happen by the Spirit of God, and it's going to happen in the secret place. So this is also talking about the idea of spiritual intelligence.
Well, I'm already there. I see all that is happening. I don't believe any of this. So all this stuff that's happening. So my mindset is already in the right place.
You're truly woke.
Say it again.
You're the righteous woke.
Well, and I think too that there's a whole ton of people like you that are in your age group, or in some sort of group, whether it's women, whether it's your race, whether it's your ethnicity, whether it's your age, whether it's any type of classification that they try to separate us all into, that aren't. And so I don't think you just represents you. I think you represents the mindset change. You represent what's been completed. It's like a washed bride that is waiting the bridegroom. But there's a whole lot of people that need to wash. And in particular, they need to wash their hair, because their hair means their mindset. And their hair is full of junk, and it's really the stuff above them that they don't even know, that they don't even see, that they haven't been exposed to yet. And when that happens, it's going to rock some people, as it should.
Mm-hmm.
It should rock some people. It's rocked all of us that have found out, a lot of us through Holy Spirit leading, a lot of us through, I listen to people like Mel K, and I love listening to her. I only heard her once, but everything that she talked about, every single thing, every book that she mentioned, all of the revelation that she talked about is stuff that God has shown us, but he's shown us by saying, look at these dreams. We didn't go into research. We didn't seek to find. We didn't, go into, we just said, God, you send stuff across our path and we'll research that. And we end up in exactly the same place, which I think is absolutely fascinating. So again, for me, the only thing that does is confirm our calling in spiritual intelligence, that if you press into God, he'll show you what you need to know, instead of listening to the news and listening to, all the other, there's so many shades of gray out there from, CNN, but there's also Fox, and then there's also the alternative ones, and half of those are out to lunch. Then there's people that spout a bunch of stuff that nobody can back up and nobody can say. So how do we know any of that's truth? And it's like, what? This again is why we talked earlier about today about source. This is why, we know dreams come from God and we can trust the source. If you don't know that, you don't have in this world, other than maybe the Word of God, if you're really into the Word of God, not that there's any doubt of the Word of God and the truth and veracity of it, but you don't have a source of truth in this world at all. You don't know who to listen to. If you think a third or half of your dreams are from the devil, or that came from me, or that comes from me, and that's the lie. Did God really say? If you settle the issue and you've done the research and you've looked at all of Scripture and you've said, no, I believe that dreams come from God, and no matter how disturbing or how awkward or how weird or challenging or uncomfortable they are, I'm going to press in. I'm going to seek like a king or a queen would to discover the hidden meaning God hides, we find, and to seek to understand what he's saying. We're going to pick up what he's putting down. And when we do, holy cow, it's an eye-opening journey. You talk about a red pill. It's like beyond a red pill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.